Hey everybody, welcome to the North American Star League. This is day number 3, division number 3, and we have some exciting matchups for you guys. But before we get to that, let's cover a couple of things. First, this is the pregame show, so the matches will start in about 30 minutes. If a bunch of yapping about maps and players is not your bag, then please join us in about 30 minutes. However, if you like the analysis, if you like the kind of backstory, then stay with us. But before we go any further, let's do a little bit of introductions. Myself, I am Jeff In Control Robinson, and to my right is a handsome devil, Andre Gretor Punctua. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well, and I'm so happy today. Not because of the games, well, a little bit because of the games, because you, sir, are back with me, and I do have to say, you played absolutely phenomenally yesterday.
Thanks, man. It was truly an honor to play against a player like Ensnara, and that's one of the nice things about these international tournaments, combining a lot of people that way. So that's us. We're happy to have you guys. If you guys are enjoying us from the free stream, please do consider getting that HQ pass. If that's something you're not really on board with, or if you want to give it more time, see how we pan out, then that's totally fine too. Then please understand that we're just happy to have you here watching, and in any capacity that you're doing it. This is a passion project for us. We're really excited about it. And if we can get your support, if we can get you guys on board with us, then great. If not, then okay, that's totally fine as well. But thank you to one and all of you for tuning in and being a part of this. We can't do it without you. I mean, otherwise it's just a bunch of guys in what people have actually called the terrorist dungeon, the terrorist training dungeon area. And we understand it's a little bit it's a little bit bare. So we're going to work with it. We're going to, that's the nice thing about this too, is we're hearing all your guys' constructive criticisms and how to build this up into something we can all be super proud about. And we're going to do that. We're going to do that to the best of our ability. So thank you again to each of you that are keeping kind of a level head and being really constructive and helping us out in that way. But you know what? That's enough about the introductory and stuff. Let's just go ahead and let's talk a little bit about the matchups. Run me through the players, then we're going to do the maps, and then let's talk about the matchups in depth.
All right, so game 1, we are going to be featuring Naniwa versus Strelak. Naniwa coming from Team Dignitas, and Strelak going to be hailing from Team Mouse. Match number 2 is going to be FXO's Moonglade against Slush. Slush coming from Root. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a Terran versus Zerg. Game number 3.
ZVZ, actually.
Oh, excuse me. ZVZ. Yep. You're right. Match number 3 is going to be Kwai Rice hailing from Fnatic MSI against Hi Pro hailing from Team Liquid.
Okay, let's get that out of the way right now. Hey Pro.
Hey Pro.
Yeah,
Ooh.
My God, man. I will backhand you.
Hey Pro.
Kidding aside.
Excuse me. Match number 4 is going to be featuring Six Jacks' DDE against OGS's Nada in a Terran vs. Terran. And match number 5 is going to be featuring Squirtle from StarTale against EG's Axlav.
Cannot wait. So we're going to talk about those guys in depth, but let's go ahead and discuss the maps. The maps we have for you are going to be pretty awesome as far as I'm concerned. The first one's going to be Backwater Gulch, then it's going to be Taldarum Altar, and then last but not least, Metalopolis.
Ooh, a good old Metalopolis.
Now, let's break down each of these maps individually. We're not going to do the fly cam, so a lot of you guys had motion sickness from the helicopter, and we understand. And you know what? We got your back, guys. We heard that complaint. I kind of felt the same way, and you know what? We're going to try it without it. If we find that it's lacking, we'll work with it. I mean, that's the kind of nice thing about the North American Star League. We're willing to kind of adapt and evolve. So that is what it is. Now, first and foremost, we have Backwater Gulch. A lot of people looked at this map, and they did not like it. I mean, just on paper, they said, that's a Blizzard map. It's not tested in tournaments. I'm not so sure we should be using that. Now, we've had a couple of play days with it. We've seen some games on it. What do you think about it, Retort?
I think, it's definitely usable to an extent. It's very hard for, I think, Zerg, in my opinion, in close positions, but I think cross position are perfectly fine. It does tend to have quite a bit of a different feel to it. Players need to start playing and adapting to the map, as you just cannot play your standard type of style. All of these players need to find ways to buy a lot of time, so I think harass styles need to be used a lot more to be careful about early game pushes.
It's definitely the aggressive map. I mean, the way this map pool works is that all 3 of the maps are not picked willy-nilly or at random. There's a big macro map, there's a medium-sized map, and then there's going to be that small map, at least, to a certain extent. There's not a lot of small maps to pick from, thankfully, for balance reasons, but Backwater Gulch is considered the small aggression map. So when players have that week to train for this matchup against a specific player, they need to look at these maps and say, okay, what is the best way to play that out? And I have to echo Retorp's sentiments because I agree. I think this is the map where you say, okay, the expansions are extremely vulnerable. The high yield is right smack dab in the middle. The Xel'Naga towers are extremely important. This all speaks to aggression. And it's going to be kind of fun to see this right out of the gate. There's no avoiding Backwater Gulch for these guys in this division right now. It is the first map we're going to play on. So really look to map control in terms of the plateaus overlooking a lot of the expansions in the middle of the map, the Xel'Naga towers, but then also kind of how they defend their naturals. There's multiple destructible rocks. There's a mega ramp leading up into a raised plateau, which then goes right into the main or the natural base. So that's going to be kind of a point of interest in terms of what happens there, who chooses to defend there, or what kind of staging point occurs there. Backwater Gulch could be compared to Blistering Sands, a Blizzard map that was replaced. Had a lot of problems on that map as well. A lot of people have kind of drawn those comparisons, not just because they're both desert tile set, but because they play fairly similar in terms of those destructible rocks and the high aggression style. So I actually am excited about seeing this map because what I'm really excited about is the format. I like that we have so much time to prepare for it, and we know who we're going to play there. So a lot of people are going to have the chance to kind of interpret this map differently because we don't have the GSL backdrop to say, okay, well, here's how MVP played on it. We actually have to do it for ourselves, and I kind of like that.
And I also like the extra dynamic of just having it so different than other maps. A lot of times, we're trying to find the best player of everybody, the top person in the entire world. And to do that, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to sort of meld your style to fit the map. So when you introduce a new map, it's almost like playing a completely new game because you just have to play so different than normal maps. And with Backwater Gulch, I think it's a perfect example of how we can see and we can really weed out who are the stronger players and who are the weaker players.
That's a really good point. Now, for map number 2, again, another map that cannot be avoided. This is a best of 3 between these two players. We will have Teldarum Altar. This is the big macro map. And by big, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking big like a big pickup truck. I'm talking big like a semi-truck. This is a massive map. When you spawn on it, it's actually kind of comical to look at how small your town hall, if you will, for our Warcraft fans, or the command center, hatchery, or nexus, appears on the minimap. It's like a little dot, and across the world is the other little dot that, of course, you can't see at the beginning of the game unless you're doing something dirty, which you should not be doing. I'll tell you, for me as a player, when I'm playing on that map as a Protoss player, but even just the map in general, one of the first things I recognize is that the natural has a low ground kind of pushing right up against the cliff corner. Now, they've changed it. In this version, it's not as severe in some of the other ones, but your geyser is still actually vulnerable, even to Terran bionic play. Marines and Marauders reach that geyser, but even siege units, tanks, Colossus, Broodlords, these things don't actually have to commit to the full attack up in your base. They can do it from the low ground. Yeah,
it is actually a 6 range to kill one of those extractors at the natural, which a lot of units, Stalkers have it, Marauders have it, so it's very easy for them.
Not Marines. A lot of people will be quick to tell me that I'm an idiot, and that's okay, I am.
But I think in a bunker it might be able to shoot, because they get +1.
Perhaps.
But, I mean, definitely that low ground is extremely strong if you take that position, which is weird. Low ground is strong, but you can harass if you gain that position and go ahead and shell out damage onto that natural. I think also the biggest thing with Teldarum Altar is that you have cluster expansion, so a group of expansions in every single main. So you got three bases for every single main that you can spawn on, and taking those is relatively easy to defend. We saw that actually yesterday on your game, where you were slightly behind, but you just said, okay, I'm just going to take my bases, and any form of aggression that he was trying to do, you were able to
with those ramps, I mean, they really shrunk down the space you can attack, and I was, no question about it, behind. But because of force fields and because of just the army he was going with, very Marine, Marauder heavy, if you can't get up those ramps, there's nothing you can do. I mean, if he has tanks, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
But that same kind of gameplay is going to play out there. Even your second natural, the third base, which is blocked by destructible rocks, it has kind of a narrow choke point. It's not a ramp, but it is a narrow space of which you can kind of choke down your opponent. So that's one of the things to notice in this map. The other thing, too, that I kind of liked, actually, is that almost all the expansions are blocked by destructible rocks. So this is a map that rewards the player that prepares. You actually have to say, okay, I'm going to expand there. I need to take the time to destroy destructible rocks now, because if I don't, when I need that expansion on the fly, I won't have that option. So there's actually kind of an exchange that works there in the sense that the player that prepares and takes those rocks down to expand there is doing themselves a favor, but also the opponent that scouts and sees, okay, he's destroying the destructible rocks, or he already has destroyed the destructible rocks. I now know his intentions. So I really like that exchange because it rewards both the player that prepares, but also the one that scouts and finds out that information for themselves and allows them to react accordingly. So it's a big map, a lot of macro expansion, or a lot of macro potential, I guess is what I was trying to say. And as Greetorp says, a lot of it comes in pairs of 2 or 3. A lot of these bases actually grant you access to other bases, which makes this map extremely, again, rewarding for the player that prepares. If you take a natural, lock it down, you've got a main right behind it, boom, 2 bases, pretty easy. So that's kind of a cool little gimmick to that map. I actually, a lot of people, like, you can actually look no further than even like the DreamHack finals, where a lot of people were upset that MC did proxy gates against White Raw in the final game. You know, in tournaments of old, I know MLG used to have like Delta Quadrant or Steps of War. There'd be a lot of anticlimactic matchups on these kind of smaller maps that you know where the guy is. Nobody can make that excuse for Tal'Darim Altar. It's so big. It's a 4-player map. There's no, like, well, in close positions. Screw close positions, man. That's like close positions
really
in Kansas.
far.
Like, your neighbor is still 10 miles away. I don't care what close positions look like there. So it's nice because I really do feel like 2 players enter this map, the better one comes out. Most of the time. Of course, there is still the cheese opportunity. There is still timings, but it's mitigated to a greater extent. And I really like that about that map. Now, the last map, I have to say, this is probably close to the Lost Temple of StarCraft 2. And that sounds weird because a lot of people are going, well, there is a Lost Temple in StarCraft 2. But what I mean by that is, for those of you that played Brood War, Lost Temple for like a 2 or 3 year span of time was the map that you played every game of importance on. That was the gridiron. That was where you went. In StarCraft 2, we still have Lost Temple. Is it a map that people really count on? Yes, absolutely. But I want to make the argument, we'll see how you agree with that I think even Metalopolis comes before that.
I think Metalopolis is a lot more of the standard map. I think it allows for every single type of style to really work. You can do a harass style, you can do a push style, you can do hyper-aggressive, you can be passive-aggressive, you can just go completely defensive. There is every single style because just of the location of all the expansions. The expansions give rise to a very either push-type style or it gives rise to a very defensive style. So it just leads itself to going all different directions. And I really like that feature because we don't see a lot of maps that are, not too big but not too small. It's like the Goldilocks, the Goldilocks of maps.
Not sure where you're going with that, but yes.
Right in the middle, sir. Right in the middle.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, someone's childhood is more developed than mine. What I like about the map, to kind of piggyback off that point, which is no surprise, Greetorp's a very smart guy. If I could do that more, it would probably be better, is that there's ramped expansions, like with the main. Okay, I mean, if you take another main, we can consider that an expansion, and that's a great gimmick. That's a good concept, having a ramp to defend a base. But then there's the naturals, wide open. Okay, that's also a good concept. I like that you have to kind of plan for that. How am I going to set up my stack defenses? Am I going to use my army, etc.? There's the high yield expansions, which are extremely risky. Triple ramp leading up to them. They're right smack dab in the middle of the map. If you have control of either of the towers, you absolutely know who has the high yield and what they're doing with it. And then there's also the third, I guess you can call them second naturals for each of the mains that's in the middle between 2 mains, and that one has a lot of access to it. So what I'm getting at is I like the dynamic between all those expansions. There's the ramps, there's the non-ramps, there's the open expansions, and there's the high-risk, high-yield expansions, which allows for players to really make those decisions, and if they're doing it with their head on straight, then it really translates to a smart decision, a great decision, or it can be exploited. And I really like that the map doesn't make those decisions for you, I guess is the point I'm making. You kind of have your ability to say, okay, well, I went and took another main because I'm going Blink Stalkers, and I know that base is further away for him to take. But some of these other maps don't have that luxury, and I really feel like Metalopolis is kind of that gridiron. It is a map that you can interpret and you can do well on. This is our middle-sized map, with Backwater Gulch being the small one and Tal'Darim Altar being the mega big gargantuan one. It would be a large at McDonald's, a bucket of pop, basically. So this map, I think we can also say, of the 3, would be the one that the Zergs would be looking to do a lot of damage on. Tal'Darim Altar is not necessarily terrible for Zergs. Bigger maps are better. but middle maps, I think it was Idra that said it actually on State of the Game, that middle-sized maps are the best because it kind of equalizes both creep spread, it mitigates like super hyper aggression in those close positions, and it allows for the Zerg to kind of be able to let their hair down and play. But now here, actually, I just kind of reminded myself, the NASL is not using MLG maps. We are not. So on Metalopolis, you can spawn close positions, and that might seem controversial, and actually for me personally, in my opinion, I can say I'm okay with it. I think a lot of people would prefer to not have the close positions because there are imbalances there, and I'm not going to shy away from it, absolutely. Zerg versus Protoss close positions on Metalopolis is harder for the Zerg. It absolutely is. But that is the way the map was intended to be played on, and that's kind of a reality we have to deal with, and have dealt with, too. That's something, as Brood War players, and I'm sure in Warcraft 3 and Command & Conquer, whatever game you played, that those things existed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I exactly love or in love with the idea that you can spawn close positions. I'm sure you're the same way. But it is what it is right now.
It is what it is. I mean, we have to face it.
Again, what it comes down to is, even though players might not like it, they have to go ahead and adapt to it.
Yep.
They have to come up with very crazy styles and everything to be able to deal with those individual map imbalances, or the map advantages, I should say. Imbalance is a dirty word because I don't think it's just an advantage, because I think
that's true.
Generally the better player will come out on top regardless of the position. So we're going to be looking to that. Metalopolis is a great map. I really, really am looking forward to it, as I think, as you said, it is the gridiron. It is where players make their mark and say, I am the better player, or I am going to defeat you handily.
Now, we've talked about the maps at great length. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the discussion there. It should be a little bit educational. That's the plan. Greetorp and I are both professional players. Let's talk about the matchups first. So let's go 5 through 1, and then once we're done talking about the players, ladies and gentlemen, it is game time, and I can't wait to get there. So give us a few moments to talk about these players. Startail, Squirtle, and Evil Genius's Axslav. Now, obviously, I have to speak to Axslav, and then we'll talk about Squirtle a little bit here. A lot of people are getting right up to their computer and saying, do it. Show your bias. Show your bias. I'll hate you. Guess what, guys? There is a bias. I love Axslav. He's a fantastic Protoss. He plays so brilliantly. I love his micro. He does have a Warcraft 3 background. He was one of the top USA Warcraft 3 players in his day. Known for his 2 vs 2, actually, with Strifecrow from Evil Geniuses. He does a fantastic, aggressive, micro-oriented style, but he is also a really smart player, and I really like that. And I'll tell you what, and here's that nice little insight that I have, he has been training his butt off for PvP, and he's actually saying that it's his favorite matchup, and Axelav does not suffer from any kind of confidence issues. He's actually told me he's going to crush Squirtle. And you know what? A lot of people will be like, that's so arrogant, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that. But as a competitor, if you've ever played sports, if you've ever arm wrestled your grandmother or something like that, you got to know that you can and will win. Even if the odds are stacked against you, you have to know that. And Axelav has the confidence.
Yeah, I really like Axelav's play. I do want to mention one thing, his APM. Now, we talked about Vibe a little bit. That guy goes around 400 APM. Think of Axelav playing at the top tier play and only going 60 APM or 80 APM, something ridiculously small. And that's very, very tiny for a professional gamer. But Axelav, just being super efficient with his actions and able to be so precise with what he does. When you watch him play, it looks like he's just gliding across, just being very, very, almost calm with his entire gameplay.
Yeah.
And it's really a delight to watch because Axelav is just such an elegant player when he's on that mouse and keyboard.
Now, I do have to plug Kennegat, a moderator from Team Liquid, was actually quite, I'm going to use a word I don't know what it means, chagrined. Boom, there you go, Reddit. There's my plug for you guys, too. With us talking about APM equals skill, he was like, dude, we did so much work to prove that's not, but, you know, it is what it is, man. APM is super important in StarCraft, and StarCraft players are obsessed with it. So, yes, he's very slow and still a successful player, and that is a storyline. I'm sorry. Now, on the other side of the table is Startail Squirtle, and Squirtle has made a lot of fans. Definitely with his GSL play, he has turned a lot of heads, doing fantastic results. Certainly one of the strongest players in all of Korea in terms of Protoss. never mind his very silly and soft name. He is actually a fearsome opponent. I can't wait.
Yeah, he's generally just that all-around player. He's just absolutely solid. Amazing fundamentals, great mechanics, great micro, and his multitasking is out of this world. On top of that, he has the Korean mindset of just the huge metagame play.
Yeah.
He's able to just go in there and mess with people. He will do tricky stuff just to get the small advantages here and there, make you very inefficient, and ultimately just build those advantages up to take the eventual match. This guy is such an amazing player, as we've seen him countless times in the GSL.
And one thing to keep your eye on, ladies and gentlemen, and again, a lot of people not necessarily happy with this storyline, but it is what it is. Koreans are actually getting bounced out of a lot of these tournaments. In TSL, a lot of first-round, second-round tournament Koreans losing. Just yesterday, we did actually have Ensnare fall to me, and then the day before, we had Rainbow get blanked by Morrow. So, and part of the reason that that's brought up so much is that the Koreans have a strong history and pride when it comes to StarCraft, rightfully so. They were the gods, so to speak, of Brood War in comparison to Europeans and North Americans.
You know, but not just that, Koreans right now have the infrastructure to be able to train as a full-time job. The rest of the world
has a house, I believe, in salaries. Yeah,
the rest of the world really does not have that.
Yeah,
we don't have that ability to play 8 hours a day. We don't have that, or they actually play more. I'm positive.
On a whole, yeah, I play about 27 hours a day.
That's pretty standard.
A little bit of a time-space rift continuing there.
But it's really amazing how the foreigners, us playing, without a doubt, us playing much less, are able to compete and actually beat Koreans. That's why I think people really need to understand that. It's not just, oh, Koreans are inherently better at the game, or, you know, there's a huge history with them. It's the fact that they have the ability to train so long. And for us to be able to compete, it's really, really speaks loudly about how strong we can be.
Can't disagree. Now, in matchup number 4 is our other Korean facing off with the North American player. 6jax DDE versus OGS Nada. Now, obviously, you've heard the name of Nada. This is a super, super mega famous StarCraft Brood War player, gone StarCraft 2. He's been doing very, very well in CODAS in the GSL over in Korea, which is the top league. It's the big Korean league. And then DDE, well, actually, go ahead. I mean, I saw you grinning. I know Nada's a childhood hero of yours.
Indeed. I mean, Nada, the Tornado Terran, man. He has quite a bit of styles. But Nada was originally a StarCraft Brood War player, and he was one of my fan favorites, of course.
A lot of people's. I know that he's the inspiration for, I think it was Artosis and Idra. Actually, they're big-time fans of him.
Yeah. I mean, he innovated a huge style in StarCraft 1. And to see him play in StarCraft 2 and successful is really, really comforting to my heart. He has been on top of the scene in StarCraft 2 for a good amount of time now. He was just like, oh, I'm going to pick up StarCraft 2. Boom. He's amazing at it. And he's been able to bring that over. His APM is high as well. And yeah, okay. APM doesn't...
Oh, my God.
Oh, APM means everything. Okay, his APM is so high, and that has a direct causation with how good you are. Therefore, he has to be the best in the world.
Sick good. Now, on the other side of the table, we do have 6jax DDE. This is a gentleman that the NASL actually caught a lot of flack for. There was like, DDE, who the heck is that? But he's kind of a dark horse. A lot of people on Team 6jax feel very strongly about this up-and-coming star, but also people in and around the North American scene know him to be one of the strongest Terrans on this continent. So he does carry with him kind of the heavy burden of people saying, okay, show me what you're made of. What do you got? But I think he can rise the occasion, and what better way than coming right out the gate against OGS Nada, one of the most famous and infamous StarCraft and now StarCraft 2 players of all time. So it is going to be a TVT, which I'm actually, this might sound weird, I'm super excited about. I love the TVT matchup. I think it's really fun to watch. I think it's the purest mirror matchup, but also I think one of the funnest, or most fun, excuse me, I won't make up that word, I know that one's fake. I was taught that much. Matchups in all of the game. So I cannot wait for that matchup. But we got to move it along. So the one before that is actually going to be Fnatic Kawhi Rice from Team MSI Fnatic, or Fnatic MSI.
Fnatic
there we
MSI.
go. Versus Team Liquid, sponsored by the Little App Factory.
I'll take it.
Hey Pro.
Hey Pro. Boom.
Hey
Pro.
You're a learning robot.
Hey, I
That's
know.
good.
I know.
Tell me about this matchup. Now, Kawhi Rice is on your team, so
Yes.
you actually have some inside information on him.
I do. Kawhi Rice is not afraid of this guy at all, and by not afraid, I mean he thinks that this is going to be one of the easier wins for him. He's actually said that in an article. I don't know if he left that as anonymous or not, but I'm calling him out on it.
No longer.
It's no longer. To be honest, he's not fearing Hey Pro whatsoever. He's really prepared for him. He doesn't think he has what it takes to beat Kawhi Rice. Well, Kawhi Rice right now feels invincible with his turn versus Zerg, and he's pretty bold. But, you know, I've seen him play quite a bit. He really loves his Marine micro with tanks. He's just a solid player. Does tank Marine the entire game. But his micro, splitting against Banelings, is probably one of the top tier micros I've ever seen before in my life.
I just did my Artosis Nerd Wiggles. What does he call him? Willy-nilly? I don't know. I'm really excited for this matchup. Hey Pro has a lot of doubters. Somehow, he's a world-class Zerg. He's one of the best non-Korean Zergs, one of the best Swedish players. He's been in Korea training. He's done very well for himself, but because he's not taking down GSLs and he's not doing all the European tournaments, somehow, every tournament he's in, people are always like, well, yeah, but what has he done? He is an amazing Zerg, and I'm so excited to showcase his talent in the North American Star League, and what better way to do it than against Fnatic Kawhi Rice, a gentleman who has apparently a fountain of confidence against him. And this is going to be a ZVT with Kawhi Rice playing Terran and Hey Pro playing Zerg. I cannot wait. I'm actually going to speed through the rest because I want to get to that so fast. So the matchup before that is going to be FXO Moonglade versus Root Slush. This will be a ZVZ, Zerg versus Zerg. Root Slush is the he is the Joker of Zergs, and I don't mean that condescendingly. I mean that he is unpredictable, violent, and very tough to deal with, which makes him a fantastic Zerg. If there is going to be some interesting play in a ZVZ, I count on Slush to do that.
Yeah, Slush is definitely the hyper-aggressive. He's actually more aggro, and I can quote this from Cats. He's more aggro than Cats. He said that himself.
Wow.
Slush has been definitely, he favors that sort of tech style or super mass ground. Like anything to do with low economy and high ground damage, he will always go for it. And I've talked to him quite a bit. He loves that style. He likes to be on that brink of low economy and just forcing pressure onto his opponents, keep them there on their heels and making sure that they defend or they're going to be punished very harshly for it.
Now, FXO Moonglade is, I'm so happy to have him in the league. He is a bit of a, I'm trying to put this in the most politically correct term because my natural mind wants to call him a Jesus or Michael Jordan or something, but I did that 3 times in the first cast. He's a superstar, and I've said that a million times too, so people are going to, I actually can't avoid the landmines, but I'm just going to come out and say it. Moonglade is one of the heroes of Australia, but even just kind of the SEA server in general. He is considered their best player. He is a superstar. He's in Korea right now, training his butt off to kind of try to take down a GSL. He's competing in the World Championship where he did very well. Moonglade is a humble, awesome Zerg player that works his butt off and does very, very well for himself. He's also, I think he's one of the sole representatives of that area of the world in this league. So he's kind of, he's got a lot of people watching for him. And in this first matchup, ZVZ, I think he's got a good chance. But Slush, like I said, I mean, I trained for the guy in MLG, and I was like, by training for him, what I really meant is I kept rolling a dice. I was like, what the heck do I do against him? And I got to believe Moonglade feels the same way. But to kick things off, we do have a huge headliner. This is going to be Dignitas Naniwa versus Mao's Straylock. And we're going to wrap up our player analysis with this real quick. Dignitas Naniwa just about all killed MLG Dallas, which is no small feat. Select, Kiwigaki, Huck, Idra, some of the biggest names in all of StarCraft 2. This guy plowed through them like a hot lightsaber through a particularly warm and volatile stick of butter, which is even more than the saying gives. He
actually got his first losses in the final after coming up from the open bracket, a 256-man bracket. He actually came from that with 0 losses, then went to group stages, 0 losses, made it all the way to the final, lost twice to Kiwigaki before taking the finals in MLG Dallas. This guy is so strong and consistent. He is no schlum. He's not a four-gator. He's not a cheesy guy. He's just all around super solid, and he knows what the heck he's doing.
So look for Nanawa. He is a Protoss player. He has a bit of a bumpy background. A lot of people will talk about his bad manner, how he got kicked out of a couple of leagues for not following the rules. But that's a bit of a thing of the past, as far as I'm concerned. I try to keep a pulse on the community. He's been well behaved. I mean, he's not the best interviewer. He's kind of funny that way. And actually, I probably shouldn't throw him under the bus too bad because we might have to interview him in a few moments. But he's definitely a personality, and he's one of the best players outside of Korea. You just have to give it to him.
Yeah.
You cannot say otherwise. He's one of the best. So I cannot wait to see how he does because he is facing against the warship, the Ukrainian superstar Mao Strelok, the big Terran Hope. And part of the reason he's called the warship is actually because in his Brood War days, he all killed a team called Templars of Twilight. And some of you might recognize those names. Mondragon, being featured in the TSL right now, is from that team. He actually led and created that team, as well as some of the other most fantastic players in all of Brood War. Strelok went right through them like a warship.
Indeed, this guy is so strong. He's actually carried his style from StarCraft 1 over to StarCraft 2. He loves timings, and what a great race to be picking Terran. And I think Terran right now is all about timings against the other races. He just romanticizes them almost.
Yes.
StarCraft 1, he was all about them. He had these weird, wacky things, but he had all of the other players mapped out very well, and he was always very well prepared for this. So he would just come in at the weirdest timings and just surprise all of his opponents, and they would not be prepared. Strelok has definitely shown that he understands the game, he understands the mechanics, and just how everything works, and he's been doing that so successfully in StarCraft 2.
Yes, very true. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to get into the games. This is the North American Star League, where players are competing for a $100,000 prize pool. I am Jeff In Control Robinson.
And I am Andre Greator Pengshua.
And we're going to go right into the games. Thank you, everyone.